Well, welcome to Loose Lips, CTV's current affairs show for women. And our special guests tonight include Bronwyn Hayward, Ursula Cheer and Catherine Dalzell. So Bronwyn is a senior lecturer in political science at the University of Canterbury, and you specialise in democracy and the environment as well, Bronwyn.
Yes, I work mainly on issues about kids as well, sort of thinking about how we can make democracy fit for the future.
Right, big issues.
Yeah.
And lots to talk about, and we'll be getting on to more of that later on. Great to have you here, welcome. And Catherine is a senior litigator with Taylor Shaw Barristers and Solicitors, and she's an expert in privacy law. Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Plenty of stuff going on to do with privacy.
Oh,
lately.
absolutely.
Yes.
We're enjoying the emails at the moment.
I bet.
Yes.
A steady stream.
Absolutely.
And it'll continue up to the election and beyond, I'm sure. Welcome anyway, lovely to have you here. Our third guest tonight is Ursula Cheer. She's law professor at the University of Canterbury, a media law expert, and of course she happens to be my sister. Hi, Urs.
Hi, Bea. How are you?
I'm good. Good to have you here.
Yeah, great to be here.
Joining in the mix, and yeah, Cameron Slater, media law.
It's all go on media law issues at the moment.
Great.
Yeah.
So it's lovely to have you here. And
Thank you.
We'll be hearing more about all that later on. So welcome to Loose Lips, ladies. On tonight's programme, we are talking about women and elections and politics as well. So what are the big election issues for women? And are women's election issues any different from men's issues? Well, research in the US suggests that every issue is a woman's issue because all issues impact on women. And as the primary caregiver, women have to deal with the impact of employment, health, education, well, you name it, they're dealing with it. So what are the big election issues for our panel tonight? And do they agree that every issue is a woman's issue? Bronwyn, what are your big issues?
Well, actually, the latest polls on what the issues are for the country, I think are really interesting. One of the things is that it's inequality, which I find is a really endearing thing because despite all the spin and all the arguments, actually people are worried about that gap between the rich and poor. Also up the top is still child poverty, and that's also despite all of the arguments. It's going to be about the economy, it's going to be about dirty politics. Actually, those are kind of key issues. So are housing, and so are options for young people in employment. So I think it's great you're doing this because women are almost invisible in this election campaign, and it's in the way in which the debates are framed, everything. It's really a male campaign. It's like a real step back to the past. So it's great. Thanks for having me.
We miss Helen Clark, don't we? That perhaps that brought more of a woman's focus to.
Not even Helen Clark so much as just actually more women. I mean, the women fronting the debates, women chairing, women just being there. And there's a lot of debate. I think we were talking before as we were doing the makeup and having fun, that there's a huge focus on the glass ceiling, but actually it's the floor. You know, what is it like to be in a community right now? This sort of basic support that every family, every woman needs to actually help herself and her kids flourish. It's big, and we're not really talking about it.
A lot of it's being glossed over. Urs, what are your thoughts?
Oh, look,
what means a lot to you?
Well, fairness, truth, all of those kind of basic
With a
things
capital
that I
T.
think, people need. We need information in order to vote in an election, and so it's the basics around getting the truth out there, and I think that's why the Hager book has been shocking to so many people around, well, what is happening? And then, of course, there's a risk that that becomes the story. And something Nikki Hager's been very keen to say is that, you know, don't let this make you think that you shouldn't vote and be cynical about it. You've got to get out there in the grassroots. But I really think that all issues are women's issues as well. But there's a different focus, basically, around it. And as you say, it might build from the grassroots. We're interested in how things affect us. We're there in the background, aren't we? We're still working away, doing all this stuff, and it's largely unrecognised. And as Bronwyn says, those don't come through as the issues in the election. So
There's a bit of smokescreen stuff going on, do you think? Sort of just taking the focus away from the things that really matter? What do you think, Catherine?
Oh, I'm not entirely sure there's smoke screen there because there's some serious issues about our democracy that have been raised raised about what's happening, and I think that will be of concern to women as well as men. Excuse me, I don't think for a minute that we can sit here and speak on behalf of all women. No. What we have to recognise is that I'm left-leaning, so unsurprisingly the issues for me are a functioning economy that recognises well-being and recognises living wage, as well as issues of child poverty. That's not going to be a surprise coming from me. On the other hand, I have plenty of friends who lean more to the right, and for them they want a functioning economy, they want to see personal responsibility, they want to see increased police, they want gangs being dealt with, they want to see those sorts of things. The problem is the conversation's not happening out there. It's happening in the back rooms or away from the front, and I agree with Bronwyn. The problem is that this seems to be about men having those conversations. We're not seeing women, and the one woman who's been the centre of this week has unfortunately been embroiled
not a great role model.
In a situation that really sort of sits there and makes me cringe as a woman.
Also, I think it's deeply alienating at the moment for a lot of young National women that I speak to, because National women aren't all about being tough on gangs and crime. There's a real heritage of conservative, thoughtful women, you know, and actually we never hear from that conversation at the moment. There's only one way to do politics, and it's either kind of, and they're very narrow.
I think the media's got a lot to do with this. The media wants to frame the election in a certain way, and it's all around single issue things, and of course the politicians get the training that, you know, allows them to deal with that and present things in the very black and white single issue way. And as you say, so it would be great if there was more reporting around that went at a deeper level and focused on, you know, that better questions were asked and more probing went on.
We always seem to be saying this about the media, don't we?
No, but it's serious now.
Do you think?
I think it's really serious, and I'm grateful for CTV doing this, because there's very few spaces now where you can actually have a real conversation. There's a lot of channels that people are very anxious about their jobs. They're working in a hierarchy, they're working very fast turnaround. They have to get the sort of hits and the traction to get their story. But actually we're not getting to the issues, and it's a very scripted sort of debate. So this is where the Haga book is completely
yes, indeed. And I mean, you know, Nikki Haga's book has captured the media headlines for the past few weeks, but do we think it's going to change the way women view the government and politicians in general? Do the issues explored in Dirty Politics repulse our panel tonight, or do they make you more determined to, you know, vote for change?
I'm repulsed and I'm shocked. And of course the government, John Key and so on, have immediately gone on the defensive with the very simple message that this is a left-wing conspiracy, and even if this has gone on, well, everybody does it. But I don't think that's right. I think people are shocked by this. I mean, I know the media; some of them misbehave, and yet I am shocked by. No, I'm not looking at you, B, in that way.
Thank you. Relief.
And the people I've been talking to, I think, are the same. Although when you look at some of the coverage now, I'm staggered by people who say, I like John Key. This isn't going to change my position, and I haven't read the book. Read the book.
Read the book.
It's a short book. Read it and then see what you think about it.
To say, Catherine, thoughts about?
I totally agree with Esther about the revelations in that book, and I don't agree with all of Nikki's conclusions, but the factual material that he had, that he presented and has been able to back up, is, in my view, shocking and astounding. But also, why are we still talking about it? We do care. So for the right to sort of say, oh, well, we're all doing it anyway and it doesn't really matter, I think the fact that it's still in the public eye tells us it actually does. And I think that women drive that a lot, because I think that even though women can have different views, they do work more collaboratively and more in community, regardless of political persuasion. And so to know that somebody's undermining that actually goes against what we think is a fair deal. Yes. Now, for some men, this is aggressive, and politics and playing chess and strategy and playing games and things like that. Both gender roles have a place in our parliament, but it's been dominated by that, when actually fair go, fair dinkum, fair play isn't happening at the moment, and I don't think it's good.
Yeah, very interesting. Quick word from you, Bronwyn, on this.
Well, I think one of the things I worry about is that lots of really good women don't put their names forward, because why would you? Why would you expose your life and your family to this?
Put off, do you think?
But it doesn't have to be like this, because I keep saying it, but knowing Jim Bolger, knowing somebody like Geoffrey Palmer, they're actually very principled people from the right and the left. And there are women that fit in that too. And this isn't our politics, this is a trading game. Men and women have played it, and actually we have to call time on it. There's a nastiness about party politics that's happened as parties have got smaller and smaller and smaller, and they've been run by pollsters and professionals. They've kind of stepped away from the stuff that's everyday politics, like your school, how you fund your library, how your kids get along the road.
These basics. So bring back the principles, and I think we all agree on that, don't we? So coming up after the break, we talk about women MPs. Do they make Parliament a better place or not? Stay with us. Well, welcome back to Loose Lips. We're talking about women and politics. Well, despite being 51% of the population, currently women make up just 32% of MPs. The percentage of women in Parliament has never been higher than 35%. Labour has toyed with the man bans to get more women into Parliament. That didn't go down so well, did it? What's stopping women from running for office? Do we think that quotas are necessary? What's stopping women, do you think?
Well, they've got sock drawers and hair to wash, quite
They
frankly.
do, don't they?
And I actually say that with some amusement, because, as Bronwyn said, why would you? Why do you go into an environment where you're in the public eye and being picked apart every day by what you wear and how you speak? We recognise that David Cunliffe got criticised last night for not remembering a policy backwards. We had a woman in there who could do that and ran it, and then everyone hated her. And I was in a debate last week where somebody said the best male Prime Minister we've had is Helen Clark. Hilarious. And we all roll around laughing at it. It really annoys me that our gender is the judgment of our performance.
So we're really scrutinised in quite a different way to men, aren't we?
Actually, it's interesting because we've done some work talking to young girls and women, you know, what do you think about politics? And they don't see that the politicians look like them. They don't feel like they connect with them. But that's funny about you started saying, you know, the man ban went down badly. But actually, it was a way in which we could promote women, and it was undermined by exactly what the Haga book is about. Before it even had a chance to flare, there was an underground, quick lobbying campaign that said, let's frame this as a man ban. Because actually,
and it was labelled man ban.
Exactly,
there you go,
and
right
because
there.
it's a threat, and it immediately is shut down, and it's shut down within National as well. So
no more intelligent debate about it.
No, but MMPs brought in more women. That's great. But we've got to make it a space. I mean, it's actually really hard to have kids and be in the public limelight. Holly Walker's had to pull out at the moment. But we expect women on benefits to go back to work with their second child. They have to go back to work, and yet we admit that actually, when you're working, it's almost impossible if you're working on your own to keep in the public life doing that. So there's like these two roles.
There's a dichotomy going on
We
there.
say, oh, these women who are working in the public limelight, they should go back with their kids. But these women who are really working with families at home, the moment they have a second child, we're expecting them to go to work.
It's just a joke. What do you think, Urs?
Well, look, I think I agree with all of those things that have been said, but it still comes back in large degree to the job of being an MP, and it is based on a man who has a wife at home with the kids. But it's also quite destructive of men as well. I think I worked in Parliament in the late 1850s.
Oh, sorry,
Look at me, I'm well preserved. No, back in the 1980s. At the end of the fourth Labour government, and that really put me off ever being involved in being an MP. I think women are repulsed by the sort of lifestyle it is, but you know, the long hours, okay, you get driven everywhere, you get a pension at the end of the day and all of that stuff, you get power and a bit of status, but it's a gruelling job. You have to be a workaholic to make it work, and you're travelling all the time, so your family will never see you. Now, Geoffrey Palmer, just mention of Geoffrey Palmer, he tried to change the way the House was run, for example, making select committee hours and the House hours more livable and all of that. Yeah. I think we've slipped back from that quite a lot now. And you think of women in Parliament, if they sit in Parliament and they bring their knitting because it's boring and they want to do something else, you know, they get made a joke of. Whereas men who are doing the crossword, you know, that, as you say, it's the judgment thing. But I think the way that Parliament runs and as a job has to change. I mean, many jobs have to change, actually, for more women to be able to do them, for the very thing you're saying, which is the need to combine a family life and be able to do your job as well.
But I think the other thing is what gets women into those positions, it's having support all the way through. So we've seen for lots of rural women, it's been rural women stepping out. That's what got Jenny Shipley in there. It's been doing the school boards. But we also need unions and churches. They've been the two basic things. Now with the demise of unions and churches,
there's
where
no
are those
grassroots,
sort of supports that
them.
make you think, okay, I can do this talk today, and then next week I'll do this one? I mean, I'm a political scientist, and for a long time I felt quite shy to talk about politics, which is ridiculous.
Which I think is part of the New Zealand thing as well. It's like, for a long time, culturally, I think it was a bit of a no-no topic, really. I mean, Catherine, you were saying in the break that it's fun to have these conversations now with sort of, you know, right-wing versus left-wing, and I think we're getting better at it. One good influence from America, perhaps, because they're really politicised over there and they just have these feisty conversations about politics all the time, on a personal level, public level, everything. And it's probably one good thing that we're kind of learning, to be able to have these conversations and not feel so funny about it.
Well, we celebrate diversity until somebody disagrees with us, and and we still live with a bit of that culture in New Zealand, which is somebody disagrees with us, therefore they are a bad person, and that's just silly. Look, I think
healthy conversation, it's healthy enough to disagree.
Absolutely,
agree to disagree.
and to do that.
Sport is a really great place for that.
Yeah.
We find that people who vote tend to belong to netball and rugby league. You know, there are those kind of, because it's actually in sport and things you actually meet a few people who aren't like you. So that's kind of an unexpected thing.
Yes, it is. We learn these interesting things about ourselves. All right, well, there's an assumption that if there are more women in Parliament, it would be a nicer, more caring and sharing place. But given everything we've learned about Judith Collins in the last few weeks, is that the right assumption, do you think? I mean, do women MPs behave differently from male MPs? Or are MPs a different breed altogether? And is Judith Collins let down the side, or is she just proof that you have to be ruthless to survive in Parliament? What do we think about that? I find that fascinating too, this whole idea about women bringing this caring and sharing thing. It's like, Margaret Thatcher? I don't think so.
I'm in a male-dominated profession, and at Taylor Shaw we don't wear cardigans. We go there to do our job and to do it properly, but we do bring some things as women into that workspace that I think is fantastic. So as I say, we're more consultative, we are more likely to find wide-ranging solutions, and we also work a lot more collaboratively together, even though we have differing opinions. But at the end of the day, the job is about being positional and supporting a client to the nth degree. Women politicians can do that too. They can support their party, but they can also bring those other skill sets that are recognised in business.
Yeah, what do you think, Urs, about this whole
look,
assumption?
I think we can't assume for a minute that if Parliament was full of women, it would be a lovely, nice, you know, soft, gentle, caring place.
Oh, let's all share recipes and do
yes, and that's a stereotype, of course, as well, isn't it? So we shouldn't perpetuate that. But so it's people who are able to do the job, and that comes back to what Bronwyn was talking about growing. We need to grow our young women into politics from that grassroots level.
And there is this really lovely surge. I mean, the fourth wave feminism, you see it everywhere. We're sort of like the old generation, but this new street energy, online, connected, is great. But it's also this kind of new growth of young Pacifica, Māori women leaders. It is amazing.
They're getting motivated?
I find it really moving. We've just got to create space to let some new voices come through. And I think after the earthquake, if you think about what that student volunteer army did, I keep saying it, but when the adults got out of the way, they led.
They did.
And I actually think, and then we closed it off again. And I think actually we've just got to find space for all the women that are sitting doing other jobs, listening to us, thinking, I could do a better job than them.
Yeah.
Get in, get a voice, get practice, get heard.
Yes, getting heard, that's what it's all about. So coming up, does our political system need to change, do we think? We'll see you soon. Well, welcome back to Loose Lips. Our current political system doesn't exactly attract women. Only 32% of current MPs are women. So does the system need to change if we're to get women more involved? Is there an alternative to our current MMP system that would attract more women, do you think? What do you think about this? Just continuing along what we were talking about before, it's attracting women into politics.
I wouldn't change MMP. I would get rid of the clause that lets you bring your mates in when you know, so you get a little party. Drop that bit, but keep the rest of it. But concentrate on some things like what can we do at a local level that actually gives, like here in Christchurch, how could we get people more engaged in setting the budget? I mean, do women want a convention centre? Do we want a stadium?
We should be asking them, we should be doing
and we
the
should
research.
have a way in which we can, and actually the council is going to open up this whole discussion about, you know, how do we spend the budget, and ask at school level, ask where you find women, ask at netball, you know, do those things that are different.
What do you think, Catherine?
Oh, I totally agree, which is to engage all of your community, but the way that, because the traditional methods just simply aren't engaging it. So we do need some, I don't want to run a referendum for every single thing, and we do need some decision making at the end of the day. But I know that my sister, I have a sister as well, by the way. In fact, I have several sisters, but one's perhaps a bit more famous. But Leanne has always been passionate about getting women into politics. But look at the choices that she's had to make to go and do that, to do the hours that Ursula talks about, and also to transition from a central government to a local government as well. Has been very significant. And see, I look at Leanne's career with pride and amazement, but also know the personal cost.
And you would know that.
Yes. So to do that, and she has always given all of her life. She doesn't resent it for a second, but to make it more attractive to women as opposed to superwomen like Leanne, we have to start engaging in conversation with women as they're doing some of the activities that get them through their lives.
Indeed. And Urs, you know, maybe asking them, you know, what they would like to change in order to get them more interested.
I think that's right. I think a lot of it is confidence as well, though, and also because I'm staggered by how many young women lack confidence, in fact, and so they need to have the confidence to know that they can get involved at that, whatever that level might be, if it's the school or the sports club or the
education and support gives you that confidence,
yes.
and we know that the people who vote have a very strong feeling like I've got a right to have a say, and it's very hard to admit you feel like you don't. And actually, everybody does. Everybody does, but it's also the listening. So how can we get a politics that is much more focused on really listening to what other people are thinking?
Bronwyn, we can't listen because we have to interrupt all the time, which is what I'm demonstrating now. Do you listen to the media interviews? Do you listen to them? And I don't know about you. I grew up where you took turns at talking. Your turn.
And it's manners, some of it, isn't it?
Oh,
We've seen
right.
lately.
It's basic manners.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, manners seem to have gone out the window, don't they? In a lot of regards. And I mean, Nikki Hager's book, this whole sort of you know, expose of what's happening on a level of truth and honesty. And I don't know, I'm a bit of a cynic, so I wasn't at all surprised about anything that came out there. But, you know, to see that some people are, I kind of think, oh...
Well, I tell you something I was amazed at was how easily the selection process for candidates can be manipulated. I was staggered by that.
Well, it's tiny little parties which not a lot of people go along to.
This is it.
That's where we have to open this stuff up. But there's a lot of lovely work happening outside of New Zealand around politics of listening, and one of the things we've been following as kids growing up in Norway, and in classrooms and communities in Norway, they've really focused on how do we talk to people and listen to people who aren't like us. And they've had to do that after those terrible murders of hundreds of, you know, of 80 kids. It's amazing what a difference it makes if you have a culture which focuses on careful talk.
Maybe we forget the wooden spoon into Parliament so that whoever's talking, everyone has to be quiet.
Pass the spoon, I like it.
It doesn't take much, actually. No. I mean, you think about the fact that we all started singing the national anthem in Māori first. Actually, some huge changes happen really simply, and that's the kind of stuff that we can do.
And we need more of that, and damn it, the four of us are going to make sure that this happens, aren't we?
Well, yes, the community.
Awesome. Well, thanks to our wonderful panel tonight. We've Bronwyn Hayward, Catherine Dalzell and Ursula Cheer. You've been watching Loose Lips. Join in the conversation on our Facebook page. Good night.